Here we go! Timber! Welcome to the Goodwood Show.
Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today with such a big guest, to be honest, since I'm also part of MonkeDAO and SMB. Also because it's so hard to have Jemmy on calls, and I think he's not doing much press, let's say. So thank you, Jemmy, for being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having myself here. Most importantly, I really appreciate you reaching out, and always happy to share more, about what we do at MonkeDAO, and hopefully it gets to, reach more new audience and get a lot more people excited about what we do at MonkeDAO as well. So yeah, once again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so actually, I wanted to start because you are not the traditional KOL influencer, right? You actually very low profile. It's very hard. I never saw you in any podcast or interviews and stuff. So it's actually an honor to have you here because of that as well, right? So I'll just, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, like who is Jemmy?
Yeah, sounds good. 100%. Appreciate that. Yeah, I try to, definitely be very careful with whatever little influence that I may have, and I try to also, be relatively selective in terms of the content that we post on X, because as we know, the space often have a lot of noise. We often see a lot of noise out there, and sometimes, you just want to be a little bit more cautious to not sort of misinform individuals who may be following you. And of course, I think for myself wise, I've been largely building my brand around MonkeDAO, and that's kind of like the way I choose to keep it. But yeah, to that point, once again, thanks for letting us this platform to share more about MonkeDAO. A little bit about myself. My name is Jemmy. I'm one of the co-founders of MonkeDAO. In the very early days of Solana, I chanced upon the ecosystem itself after running across a bunch of other adjacent ecosystem, like BNB. There's a lot of like GameFi mint in 2020 2021 or so. Then of course, how can you talk about all this without mentioning Ethereum? I think Ethereum ecosystem was also a fun one, all in all. Lots of money loss, lots of pains, lots of derivatives that we saw. But it was also a very fun time, because that was the foundation of what shaped NFTs and NFT culture, right? The whole idea in which you chance upon NFTs coming out on the ETH ecosystem. You mean like some derivatives along the way and hoping to sell the top, but you always get robbed by just gas fees, and sometimes you pay the gas, and transactions they don't even go through.
They don't happen. Yeah,
they don't ever go through.
That.
Yeah, but honestly, as much as these may not be the most pleasant, but it was really the cumulative experience of these adjacent ecosystem that really, led me to Solana. So when I, eventually downloaded my first, Solana wallet, at that point was Solid, and then eventually I used Phantom. I minted my NFTs and interacted, with it. I realized that, hey, this is crazy.
Much better, right?
Yeah, not just that, but I don't have to worry about getting robbed anymore. And on ETH, at that point, it was a little bit more intense in the sense that you knew that the chances of you getting robbed, either from the perspective of a bad project, of course, this happens everywhere, that's the caveat, or just from the gas fees and transactions not going through is like 50%. But you knowingly walk into the lion's den, willingly to be, sacrificed, right? But on Solana, I think that, in fact, is to a large degree more balanced and a level playing field for everyone, which was really what brought me here. So TLDR, got into Solana, loved the infrastructure that I saw here, and eventually minted a bunch of Solarians, and then decided to get involved with SMB because I have just been a big fan of Paul Frank growing up. So that was how I eventually minted my first couple of monkeys. I think it was 7 8 of them. Met a lot of great friends. Every day we're just like, when devs do something, why is the main not coming through? Just like, just really a community member in any NFT community and whatnot. We're just having a lot of fun. Then we realized that, that community that we eventually had was something really special, right? And that, every day we're trying to find a new alpha coming through, but there wasn't really a place for us to go and do exactly just that. And at that point, because Solana was still relatively early, we felt a little bit bad talking about other projects in the SMB Discord. So you're essentially saying like, hey, Bad Religion, do you know there's like a new project coming up that's better than yours? Why don't we go there and make money together instead? So that felt not so polite. So then we wanted to create that neutral ground and say, hey, let's create a place for people to talk about minting and all that stuff. And that was literally, if you go to MonkeDAO Discord today, go into the chat channel, that is literally the first few messages that came through on the server. And so that was really the inspiration, just wanting to create a place for community members to truly belong in the early days. And that was how, MonkeDAO came about. And that was my whole like web3 story of how I got involved with MonkeDAO as well.
So at that time, there was already a separation, right, between what was SMB, Solana Monkey Business, and MonkeDAO, right? That was the separation.
Yeah, so yeah, that's right. So when I mentioned, every day we hung out, when devs do something, this was all happening in the Solana Monkey Business, project Discord. And, truly it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of friends there. We did a lot of escrow together when there wasn't really an NFT marketplace to begin with. So you can imagine it was a very scrappy beginning. But
all
lots
OTC,
of fun.
right?
Yeah, all OTC, but it was really through these scrappy beginnings where friendships were forged. Met some of the OG monkeys like Ceylon, Norm, RP, who eventually came together as our co-founders of MonkeDAO equivalent, and we just had a lot of fun just putting people together in the same room and trading a bunch of JPEGs. But yeah, I think the reason why MonkeDAO was formed was to really create that adjacent community. But why we eventually decided to call it MonkeDAO, and MonkeDAO continues to be gated simply via the ownership of MonkeDAO, the SMB NFT, is because it didn't take us too long when we go back to the drawing board and we ask ourselves this question: what was the one thing that brought us together in the first place? And we quickly realized, truly, without the SMB meme, we wouldn't even be around, because it was through there that we realized that, hey, we actually enjoy doing this together. We actually enjoy going through the ecosystem, looking out for the latest opportunities and whatnot. And that was the genesis story. And that is how MonkeDAO was formed, and alongside the SMB project that came through together almost a couple of weeks later, side by side.
Yeah. Jemmy, I'm going to go back a little bit in terms of where did you come from, like academically? So if you have any background in finance or something, and why did you came to crypto, or in this case NFTs, as you said, started with Ethereum and BNB, but what is your background?
Yeah. Great question. Yeah. Although it's only, maybe like 4 or 5 years back, it does feel like forever already. But I was fortunate enough to get involved with the VC space, and I sort of got into the crypto rabbit hole because, the team that I was working with, we were the very first investors in this project called Artifact. They were the same team that got acquired by Nike, and they also, were the team behind a collection called Clone X on ETH. So that was how I got involved with crypto. We are fundamentally a Web 2 focus, I would say, consumer digital media entertainment first early stage fund. And so watching the sort of natural progression of how, startups in the digital media entertainment and consumer space, especially in the early days, found a natural synergy in terms of harnessing Web3 as a technology enabler and also a community building mechanism, was what really got me very intrigued, like, hey, what exactly was going on? But fundamentally, my background was largely in the VC space, doing mostly early stage financing for pre-seed, Series A startup, purely from the consumer facing sort of applications, use cases, and just startups across digital media entertainment in general.
So you came from the VC world. So this was the right place for you, right? So I assumed, I don't know when you started, if you started in like in 17, but at that time, like the ICOs, that was crazy. That was like the wild west or VC money, right? I don't know if
Yeah, I
you.
think yeah, you're right. I actually, maybe wasn't as fortunate to get involved at that 17, 18 mark. But it was maybe more so late 18, early 19s, whatnot equivalent. And when I first started off with crypto, it wasn't directly straight up with NFTs first. I had some exposure there, but I was doing a lot of like OTC as well in terms of fiat. Just trying to get myself on ramp and trying to get off ramp. And at that point, it was also a challenge. But yeah, I was, at least fortunate enough to get involved with Web3, I think sometime around the late 18, early 19 phase. And so that wasn't maybe as hype of a ICO kind of environment, if anything. It was a period whereby things were like, slowly stabilizing and like there were things happening, but nothing too crazy until, maybe 2020, 2021, where, the NFTs had really like came back and it became a massive onboarding avenue. And I still think that NFTs are a great and fun way to onboard a new wave of audience, if anything. This is something that, for example, traditional DeFi applications are still a little bit more lacking behind, I would say, in the sense that it's very daunting, right? Think about it from this aspect of like, all these LP provider platform and whatnot, and just in general, things like staking and whatnot, which may be relatively intuitive for individuals who are Web3 native, but the idea of like what exactly is staking, right? Is it like a fixed deposit kind of thing? How do you draw association to that for someone who has zero Web3 exposure? But NFTs is just a fun way, right? And I don't think it's more so like reinventing the wheel. It's just a different type of collection. For the longest time ever, people in the history, of like mankind, we always congregate based on our interests. So that's why you always see like, of course, in any parts of the world, people get together for their interests, like collecting stamps, collecting cool cards, collecting anything and everything. Now, if you have a hobby and you are able to find 2 or 3 individuals together, you can congregate and allow you to do things around your hobby together, and that's the beautiful part of life, right?
And you don't need to bother your wife with your hobbies, right?
Yeah, that's assuming people in Web3 has a partner.
exactly. Yeah.
Jokes aside. But yeah, that's really my take on it. I still think NFT is a great way because it's fun, right? It's relatable, and it's also an avenue where you can meet new people in a fun and a light-hearted manner, right? It's not like, oh, deploy 500,000 of your life savings and watch it grow for 3%. Every 5 days you need to rebalance or like something like that.
Boring. Right. Right.
To each his own. I think some people sure, but I think NFTs are really a very light-hearted moment. Of course, we've seen how the industry pretty much changed over the years, if anything, and it is to some degree a huge maturity wave that we have actually went through, right? And way less speculation involved. Consumers, hopefully to a large degree, are a lot more well-informed today. They know things that are sensible, that they know the things that are a little bit more grifting in nature, and try to spend time and resource to be allocated in the right platforms, the right communities.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of get the personal questions a bit in the beginning out of the way, and then we go to SAB and MonkeDAO. I said about the wife, and you said most of the people are single and they don't have any partners. But how that being CEO of MonkeDAO and being in this space affected your personal life? Like, people are skeptical. They say, "What the hell have you been doing?" You cannot even explain what you do, or can you tell them what you do?
This is interesting. I don't really get this question a lot, but definitely happy to share some of my personal take here. I think in terms of friends and family, they are always curious around what I do. And I usually just tell them that, I run a Web3 country club, a digital country club. And sometimes when people are curious, for me, it's easy. I whip out the MonkeDAO, Twitter account, or rather, as we know now as X, and I show them all the pin posts. This is what we do. We have, close to 3,000 members all around the world. It's a country club for people to get together, across a very specific industry, and across almost every part of the world today, we have people coming together very regularly. And it is through these activities that we do that build a collective sense of belonging, etc. Of course, it still takes them a while to understand, like, oh, country club, and how do we do it in a decentralized fashion. This is our job to also make sure that this can at some point be a norm that is easily accepted, easily digested by people. But until then, we're just gonna keep going until this can be fully understood. But I think there are clearly a couple of trade-offs here. I think Web3 is an industry that is very demanding until today. There isn't really like a clear 9 to 5 kind of thing, especially for us in a global time zone. We always joke about the fact that this is GMT plus monkey. And it is indeed the case, because think about it this way. We work with a huge network of contributors coming from all parts of the world, from different time zones as well. And so as a result, we have to be very flexible and agile in terms of how our work schedule looks like. And so it's super important for us to be able to accommodate to that. And myself-wise, I've always found pride, and I found a lot of enjoyment in hosting our Monkey Weekly Town Hall, which happens every Friday at 12 p.m. EST. So for my time zone, it is like 1 a.m. every Saturday, easy. Or 1 or 12 a.m. every Saturday. So that means Friday nights are not really something for me. My wife, has been really understanding, which I'm really, really grateful for. So there are, of course, compromises that you have to make along the way, and I'm just, fortunate and thankful that, I have a very supportive partner throughout, all these years that allows me to continue to do the job that I enjoy, and hopefully, continue to spread a lot of that excitement and positive energy throughout the ecosystem.
Yeah, they say behind the great man, there's always a great woman, right? And that's sometimes if you don't have the family support, they don't need to support, but let's just let you do whatever you think it's the best for you. Right? That sometimes it's the best thing. Do you still do the VC job, or you just doing MonkeDAO?
Yeah, so MonkeDAO takes up quite a fair bit of time today, but I still do a lot of, in terms of like portfolio support and whatnot, for that VC side of things. I think to me, it's a great way to really keep in touch with the overall sort of fundraising landscape. And also, I think what is more exciting here, as part of, I think you may have been involved as well through like Monkey Ventures. There's a clear synergistic overlap over there. And essentially the whole idea of Monkey Ventures is to solve exactly this problem that we see across finance. And I use finance as a very cliche word, and not like a Web2 or a Web3. But essentially, my belief is that through, what I've been able to see from both the Web2 and the Web3 side, it's not a matter of whether it's in Web2 or Web3. It's in fact a problem that exists across, the whole fundraising landscape, across finance in general, whereby fundraising, or rather venture opportunities in terms of early stage investments, for example, or even in some cases, as we've done in Monkey Ventures, late stage investments, or in general investment opportunities, often are limited to individuals who are well connected, well-to-do, and you have all these insider circles that you have to be a part of. So our belief at Monkey Ventures, my personal belief, is that seeing how and understanding how the venture space work, leveraging on what we have at MonkeDAO, which is the community element, how do we merge both worlds, right? To then really help to democratize access to high quality deal flow and allow retail investors to get access to these investment opportunities alongside some of the big boys, right? And we're not really trying to reinvent the wheel. Essentially, what we're trying to say is that the conventional finance structure across the industry can still remain, but we could possibly provide an alternate, perspective in which there is also value to be added across this context of social capital and social capital alone. And that hasn't exactly been seen, in terms of too large of a scale. And I think one thing that is notable across the ecosystem is, for example, the success of Echo. Echo as a platform that used to be run by Kobe, and big news there. I think it was a great development that Coinbase bought it over by the platform. But I think that's a huge testament on the future that we're moving forward, right? With web3, with crypto and whatnot, we can decentralize, democratize a lot of these things, and allow a more level playing field for people to get involved. So my work, in the VC space, continues to give me a good platform to get a good glimpse of to what's happening across the industry from the front row, and allow me to hopefully reapply that to some context within Monkey Ventures as well, and across, of course, being very closely involved with the consumer space, the MonkeDAO work that we do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned Monkey Ventures, because I had it on my list of things to discuss. And actually, the space changed so much, right? Because back in the day, right, the concept of Monkey Ventures makes sense in a way where people couldn't access this kind of rounds, right? But at the moment, it seems like everyone is getting the money in a different way, with pump fund, right? So people don't even use the traditional ways, right? And that sometimes the space in nowadays are a bit on a bear market. So it's hard to understand how can we still can get the alpha or be on the first rounds. It sometimes seems like we get the 7th round and we get the breadcrumbs and we don't get even a good price. And then at sometimes when there's the TGA, the prices we bought it at much more expensive than we're supposed to, right? Because that's in theory, right? The VC funding is to give a discount, right? You buy the tokens at the discount early stage. I'm not sure what is your perspective of this new change paradigm.
Yeah, for sure. I think all these new alternate funding platform, for example, like MetaDAO, is great as well. I think how I view them is that these are the different industry players that are really trying to do, or rather play our part in terms of moving the industry forward to figure out the perfect fundraising model. Now, of course, I do personally believe at least there is no one size fit all, and I do think for better or for worse, it's going to be a constant work in progress. And I think we have seen how pump funds model has evolved. I think it's great as to the matter of dropping a token, doing a fundraise there. But I think there are also certain challenges and inefficiency that you realize. For example, if you are not exactly doing something that is directly related to the meme economy, or rather to that sort of meme vertical, you may not want to release a token, for example, directly upfront yet. Something like MetaDAO or traditional venture financing could be a better model overall. I do think MetaDAO, for example, has been an interesting experiment. If anything, it does help to initiate some of the important conversations to have on how teams are essentially getting access to capital, using the capital, and also providing some form of protection to investors. But along that same vein, there could also be certain challenges, for example, in terms of certain stress, which of course rightfully designed to be this way, put onto the startups itself, the team itself. And the way that I look at it in terms of what we are trying to do here at Monkey Ventures is not so much of blending these things, but more so trying to find a model that complements the conventional venture funding model that has worked for, basically the longest time ever, right? And so traditional venture funding, has its pros and cons. I don't think it's perfect yet, right? And the just simply based on the fact that it is still largely limited to a group of individuals who have a meaningful network, who have either a decent access to capital, and it is designed to be that way. I think the key value unlock in any teams that is trying to work or rather build something in Web3 should really be access to a community and access to a group of Web3 native users. Because as a matter of fact, you can raise a lot of money, but if you don't get access to end users, the users who are critical to the very success of a platform, then a lot of them may not be as meaningful because you can build the best product. But if no one is testing and giving you feedback, no one is testing a product, it may not be meaningful, right? And so we see that sort of social capital value unlock to potentially be quite tremendous. And we want to continue sort of narrowing towards that. And I think, for example, MetaDAO, they also have, of course, similar components of that. The fact that it's a Web3 native platform, of course, naturally would attract Web3 native users backing these teams. And of course, Pump Fund, although they are more of like meme nature, the individuals participating in this is really Web3 native. So that's the one common theme, that we see across things like MetaDAO, Pump Fund, Launchpad, which is a token drop mechanism, Monkey Ventures, or whichever others. And there are also a couple of amazing syndicates out there. For example, like Lucid Drakes, they have their own equivalent. And I know the Champions has an amazing committee as well. So these are all the adjacent committees. And I personally think the biggest value unlock really comes from the fact that these different platforms or alternatives or options in general does provide teams with the access to that layer of Web3 committee, which is very unique.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. I wanted to do the bridge to Monkey Foundry, right? That was recently created. I'm actually not sure if the idea is not to connect Monkey Ventures with Monkey Foundry, right? Bring new projects and then one day do the round or get the money with Monkey Ventures to Monkey Foundry. I'm not sure if that is even on your plan or I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely, I think we see a lot of synergy there, which is one of the reasons why we decided to start, just stop thinking, start doing, and start working towards building out a model that is sensible for Monkey Foundry. But you're right to point it out in that manner. The goal, the way I see MonkeDAO is that, in the future, in the longer term and bigger picture, MonkeDAO, can potentially become that conglomerate across Web3 and whatnot, in which, it has an ecosystem of its own. And within that ecosystem is a couple of subsidiaries within. For one, Monkey Ventures, for example, has been around for a while. Now we're actively putting love and resource into Monkey Foundry. And eventually we want to have a couple of other strategic verticals, which may or may not be announced yet, which then, all fulfill the larger, sort of goal of filling up or being part of the wider MonkeDAO ecosystem. Now, Monkey Foundry does have a strategic overlap definitely with Monkey Ventures. Of course, Monkey Ventures, our goal is to always try to find emerging teams across the ecosystem and across the industry and back them in the early stages and whatnot, give them access to the community layer more than anything else. Now, Monkey Foundry's goal is then to work with early stage team in a more proactive manner. Now, Monkey Ventures is more so like, okay, a conventional sort of like VC model, but, in a Web3 way, you get access to users, but the users are not mandated to work with you so actively. If they do work with you, it's through like an early product tester, and they are really interested and passionate about, the product that they see the opportunity to be a little bit more involved. Now, Monkey Ventures, we identify teams who are working on early stage ideas and whatnot in the consumer landscape, frontier technology and whatnot, because that's where we think that we can help to differentiate as opposed to, because truly there are a couple of incubators out there, and we think that we want to play to our strength as a committee first organization at MonkeDAO. What is our strength? We try to put it such that we can position the team in a strategic manner, especially across products and platforms in which we believe that our users would eventually use at some point, right? At some point of the user life cycle. And so that is the reason behind the thesis of doing, consumer first applications more than anything else. And more than that, we have made sure that we focus on that as compared to like enterprise application. Now, the Monkey Foundry team then works with our portfolio companies equivalent across each cohort very closely, or like go-to-market, user testing. We have mentors, which are also made out of our amazing MonkeDAO network of membership. And these mentors are then paired up with them and say, okay, here's my expertise, here's my background, let us know where you're lacking, and here's how we can contribute. So that's really like the main premise in terms of how we work. Give them very active support along the way, and as they graduate from the program, if they're looking for additional fundraising or whatnot, we can then cross-pollinate and share with the Monkey Ventures community as well.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. I wanted to go back to a time that I'm not even sure if you were CEO at that time, right? When the project bought the IP and when the project minted the Gen 3, and I think they are related. There was a big, a lot of FUD, a lot of friction at that time. How do you personally handle that type of FUD and situation? Does it affect you, or you don't care anymore? Just something that you are so used to.
Wow, that would be a very high level of self-actualization, and like you need to like meditate to a whole
Yes, I know.
to achieve that level of self-calming state. Yeah, but all in all, I think to help answer that question, I think at that point, I was still part of the core team, with some of the amazing, early contributors as well. But I think, at that point as well, we're also very fortunate that Norm was with us. So Norm was helping us, lead a lot of the strategy direction here. And, I had the opportunity, of course, to work very closely with him in almost anything and everything that we do. And that is really how, MonkeDAO continues to operate. Although there is maybe one lead executive kind of like structure equivalent, the team, the executive team in general, it just kept very active in the loop in terms of overall decision making, just to make sure that we can get a well balanced view. Because at the end of the day, we're not trying to tell people to agree with one thing, but truly, if you can get many different sort of perspectives and the harder questions answered internally first, it would be a much better journey all in all when we go out there and share certain decisions and framework and whatnot. But I think when I sense that question, I hear of course some resemblance of challenges that you would have felt as well as an audience, by the sideline, or just looking at it, from the ecosystem wide. And I think, you're right to point that out. In fact, it would be, just outright lying to say that it was a perfect and a peaceful period. It was indeed challenging in the sense that, there were a couple of that. It's always going to be a challenge, right? When you do expansion versus exclusivity. And until today, for any team out there across different industry, if you want to expand, naturally you risk diluting the organization. And that decision pretty much was funneled and fueled through the context of let's make SMB IP, belonging to MonkeDAO, which is the community-owned and operated organization above all things. And to today, SMB and MonkeDAO is still an amazing Web3 case study over. So in order for us to achieve that, we knew that the SMB Gen 3 mean was essential. And it was a huge milestone because at that point, we saw that we had a decent, Web2 Gen 2 community. But we also wanted to find a way to really future-proof that participation and allowing more individuals to get involved with MonkeDAO overall as compared to just the Gen 2 collection, which was at some point pricing out a lot of individuals.
Yeah, exactly.
So naturally, when we eventually dropped the main, we did see a couple of confusion calls, and then certain community members may not have been the most pleasant with the whole couple of months that followed. There were a couple of challenges as well in terms of like reconciling some of like the efforts to make sure that they continue to be aligned. But I think all in all, the move was still celebrated as a whole in terms of unlocking that milestone such that MonkeDAO then successfully own the SMB IP. So today, the SMB IP is not owned by any one singular dev. It was really through that move that we were able to unify it to be one singular entity. And for that, we're very, very grateful for. And, truly without the help of some amazing committee members and, some of those that we are very well aware of, for example, like So Big Brain, it would almost be impossible, right?
Yeah.
And I think the key thing that, for me to take note of, as we were sort of navigating the period was that, although there were a lot of noise, we just need to understand that, at the end of the day, we should try to rally the committee to come together, understanding the fact that we have more things that are similar, or we have more similar grounds than we ever think as compared to differences. And of course, when emotions are high and like,
And when
people
money is
feel-
involved, right? There's money involved, and that's the
and naturally, people will feel very strongly about a certain topic, and emotions will continue to be even more intense. And I think trying to understand that piece and not jump into the bandwagon and say that, hey, let me also like participate in the contribution of a more intense rigor of discussion, or rather, sort of back and forth bickering that does not really help to move towards a constructive criticism, was really the key, right? And I think, if anything, we did spend a good like 1 to 2 years tidying up the entire sort of community. And in fact, after I was fortunate enough to sort of help carry on the torch from Norm, in terms of the active effort that we were working on from the MonkeDAO side, it was really entirely focused on unifying the community more than anything else. We are very fortunate that we are in a very unique organization, all in all. MonkeDAO as the premier Web3 country club, but truly, helping people understand what exactly is the role of the Web3 collection. Sorry, the Gen 3 collection and the Gen 2 collection within the MonkeDAO ecosystem was key. And most importantly, pushing around narratives that help people understand that, hey, let's stop fighting and let's just, come together, rally behind one brand, continue building towards that sense of belonging. The very first thing that got us together in the first place should continue to be our North Star more than anything else. So that was really, one of the key challenge and one of the toughest period, if anything. Definitely don't want to relive it, but I'm very glad to say that indeed, after 1 year of focusing on just unifying the committee, we saw considerable improvement, in which, there is again a renewed sense of collective pride, right? People, feel proud to be MonkeDAO, and they understood the difference between one being the equity pass, right? The Gen 2 members who get collective governance process and get an active say in terms of what the future of MonkeDAO should look like, as well as Gen 3, which continues to be more like a social pass, if anything.
Yeah. So, and actually, the fact that Gen 3 was minted helped to give the treasury now a boost, right? It's, I think I was checking, as around 4 million or whatever, and without that treasury, wouldn't be possible to build anything, right? To build Monkey Foundry, or to build the banana stand, or have the partnerships that MonkeDAO has at the moment, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think, we are very fortunate to it as well. Of course, at that point when Gen 3 collection launch was also a period where, Solana prices were like, close to record low, if anything. It was like, maybe $10, $20 at the highs. And so I think, thankfully, as a community, there was like ample foresight to sort of just keep that SOL as per its original holdings from meme. We liquidated what was necessary to pay up the bills and kept it mostly in SOL, because we live in the ecosystem long term. Of course, there are a lot of like volatility attached throughout the markets. But I think truly, like you pointed out as well, thankfully, with the meme, it does allow us to continue to sustain ourselves across various manner. And without that, in the past, the structure was largely reliant on committee volunteers alone. which is, great. I think we are very thankful that, that was the genesis story of what made MonkeDAO. But I think as we continue to go along, we start to realize that at the end of the day, everybody needs to put food on the table. And as the sort of harsher market condition come upon us, we do see that individuals end up having to continue prioritizing other aspects of life, perhaps like ensuring that their livelihood is not compromised, and the volunteer structure may not be the most feasible anymore. So it was also at the right time where we don't exactly I would say at a stage whereby we are able to hire like top talents and hire top dollars and compensate based on top dollars, but we are at a position in which we are able to at least compensate contributors for some of their time spent on certain things, and that's been really the biggest value add. And hopefully through this phase itself, we can continue to unlock even more modules in which are more aligned in terms of the MonkeDAO ecosystem that continue to also drive value to our members over the longer term.
Yeah, you mentioned that you have a lot of your treasury in Solana. That makes sense also because now MonkeDAO has a validator, so you have to stake that Sol with the validator so you can have more revenue coming. We have a validator now in Mindfolk as well. So I know the struggle. It would be easier to just sell that to USDC and wait for the market to start pumping and then buy again. But it's hard, and then you have to manage this type of. You have to make this decision.
You're right.
Balance treasury.
You're right.
It's not easy.
100%. And in fact, sometimes there's always two sides to a coin, and we acknowledge that. Can we do better? We can always do better. We always acknowledge that there are room for feedback and improvement. But as a matter of fact, we respect the committee decisions that were made around the rebalancing structure, which is the 75% SOL, 25% USDC. The primary belief is that the USDC or stables holding should be at least able to allow us to continue to fund short-term expenses, and over the course of the long term, we can continue to stable the SOL as per what we deem fit and necessary. But the fundamental business of MonkeDAO is not in actively trading the treasury, and we don't want to go there and do that and say that let's try to time the market. So we try to operate with a framework which we do understand is not perfect, and we want to continue to find ways to perfect it over the longer term, and try to stay disciplined in the cause, understanding that what is the core business of us as an entity altogether at the end of the day.
Yeah, makes sense. And then you mentioned the fact that now people are being, let's say, paid or giving some contribution to the time they spend on MonkeDAO. And it makes sense because of course, it's easier to have just volunteers. As in Mindfolk, we are all just volunteers, right? But at some point, if you want some more technical person or a more expertise, it's hard for the person just to give their time away for free, right? Yeah. It's not easy. And 100%. At some point, people just move to other projects or to places where they get money in return of their time and their knowledge, right? And I understand that, yeah. But it's a topic that people don't understand sometimes. They are very critical. Oh, why do you pay so much money to this person or to that person? And
yeah, I think to your point as well. I think that makes complete sense, especially from your capacity. Especially you mentioned that you also are an active contributor, and in the Mindfolk's community, you would sort of definitely relate to this notion in which especially during the top of the markets, etc., and where there's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. Sometimes, we do see that there are committee members who are really, really excited to contribute, and we're very, very thankful of that. And it's not really a fault or anything, but sometimes as we go along, like you mentioned, markets are a little bit slower, and opportunities become a little bit more competitive overall, and people naturally have to prioritize certain opportunities that help to ensure their livelihood. And so while that model worked for us in the early days, we definitely don't want to take that for granted. And moving forward, I think the reason why we decided to move to this model of ensuring that a stipend or an allowance is covered is so that we can also build like a sense of responsibility. Because when you are a volunteer and versus when you are a team member, it's very different. You show up knowing that, hey, I am in charge of this. It is my responsibility, obligation, and duty to perform certain things, as compared to, oh, I'm just doing it for fun for them. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out kind of thing.
And there's also like we have cases of people that contributed a lot in the beginning and build some stuff and they disappeared. Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to get in touch with some of them. Oh, can we come back? Can you come back just to explain me so we can continue this project that you were doing? And people have their lives. It's understandable, but of course they were not paid. They have no responsibility to come back and they'll be like spend time with me, like explaining to whatever they were building. So yeah, it's understandable. It's nice. On another perspective that you mentioned a lot of the country club, it's something that actually not other NFT projects do, right? They don't try to gather the community in real life. Also, maybe they don't have such big communities. So you're going to do like a meetup with 2 or 3 people. It's going to be a bit strange. And also because Web3 are so worldwide, right? It's so spread around. But why do you focus so much on social events and in real life activities?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, great question there. So the way that we look at it is that, at the end of the day, we understood that Web3 is an industry that changes very, very quickly. Every few months, you see a new meta, and in the past as well, you've seen even as fast as like every few weeks, there's going to be a new meta. And it's extremely challenging to try to chase every meta and make sure that you're ahead of the curve. And it's almost impossible because sometimes you notice this and then you're like, oh, okay, let's try to chase this meta. It takes weeks to build at the very bare minimum. By the time you're done building, you're trying to perfect it, and it's like, oh, the train has left. So we quickly understood that, and we truly believe that what made MonkeDAO special in the first place has always been our focus on people and people first. The community-owned and operated organization nature is what made us special in the first place. And my biggest belief that our product is our people, and we should definitely do within what we can in terms of our capacity to support our people. And community as the North Star above all else will truly allow us to withstand the test of time and continue to ensure that MonkeDAO is a home for individuals to belong across the many market cycle and across the many years to come. And that is the reason why, the local chapters was a very key initiative for us back then in terms of scaling that out, because we want it to be a model that allows us to build, as cliche as it sounds, an organic flywheel and essentially replicate the ideal and the model of building community across a global foundation in a scalable manner. Because building Web3 communities is really, really tough. You either do it only digitally, or, for example, you do it in certain countries and you're limited to that, because truly, it's hard to aggregate a global community. So the local chapter is something that we're very thankful, we're very excited for, largely because, we're able to find that sort of wave of sort of ambassador who can help us replicate that excitement and find core nucleus all around the world where members are a little bit more active and holds that sort of active touch points through like regular meetups and whatnot to come together. And truly, like what you would join, why you would join a conventional country club is to really go there and meet people, find all the right people in one place, and we aspire to be exactly just that in MonkeDAO.
It's funny that you always mention country club, and that was like a shift in narrative, right? A few years ago, we would say NFT project, NFT, and at some point, NFT was not seen as a very good thing. So people changed to it's a digital collectible, digital, and now you are moving to the country club. So it's funny how it's exactly the same thing, but if we change a little bit the narrative or the wording, people will accept it much easier than if we use words that or name it things that people don't like it that much.
100%, 100%. And the whole idea for us, we used to call ourselves the first community owned and operator NFT DAO. It's not that it's wrong. It's still true until today. But it's just that, we do want to make sure that this is eventually a tagline that is easily understood by people across Web3 and Web2. And of course, anything that is generally understood by Web2 people will be also understood by Web3 people. And the whole idea of Country Club is a very natural sort of lean into for us, largely because, of course, it focuses on people first above all things.
Yeah, makes sense. Another point that I wanted to speak about is that you came after Nom, as you mentioned already. Nom was also a very low profile person. No one knew about him, but I met him in person a few times. His knowledge is amazing. He's a very nice person. How hard it is to fill those shoes of someone that done so much and was from the beginning.
Very fun question for sure. So I think for myself wise, it wasn't that bad. I think largely because when we first started MonkeDAO, it was already the few of us, so we were already very active, in the front line. And in fact, we're taking on almost like the co-founders kind of like direction already. And so, there was a kind of like a natural segue or natural progression for that sort of convergence of relationship in any case from day one. So it wasn't that like stressful per se, but of course, I think as a friend, first thing above all else, I've always been very supportive of, his new ventures across the ecosystem, what he's built, with the amazing Bong ecosystem, and continue to lead the herd there, especially in interesting times like this. So those are definitely, some of my thoughts there. But I think, Norm has really paved the way for us. And like you mentioned as well early on in one of the questions, when he was like the frontman equivalent, it was arguably one of like the toughest period where, friction point is also very, very high. People are very tense because of the potential conflict, mild conflict, I would say, or lots of active bickering happening across community members and whatnot.
Yeah. So, and the funny you mentioned, he then went to found or create Bonk, and it became one of the biggest meme coins in the whole space, not only Solana, right? If one day someone else becomes CEO of MonkeDAO, do you see yourself also creating something like this, your own project, your own meme coin?
Not too sure. I think, it requires a lot more than just that. Of course, Norm always had an amazing network. He's very well connected to individuals across the space. There is no doubt around that. But also, I think, there was that point of time. For them to achieve something this spectacular, I think it really took a lot of that effort more than anything else. And I think at that point itself, that market was accommodating to that meta. I'm just not sure whether that meta will come back again and how it will continue to evolve, because I'm sure as hell it will continue to evolve as we go along. And so it will really depends on what that may look like.
Yeah. So how do you see crypto and NFTs, and of course MonkeDAO, like this year, but also like in the next 5 or 10 years? What is the long run for the project and crypto in general?
I mean, my personal take is that there's a lot of like maturity happening, at least across the space, to a large degree. The level of speculation will always remain because this is crypto, of course. But at least I think the number of attempts to breathe from the ecosystem has significantly reduced over the last years or so. And my personal belief again is that we will continue to see more reduction of that, and hopefully over a longer time frame there will be less volatility. Well, largely because I do think in order to attract that mainstream audience to come and be involved, you do need, some level of stability and certainty for individuals to feel comfortable enough to deploy like a significant chunk of their assets here. And I think my personal belief as well is just that, we don't need too many junk tokens in the ecosystem. And I think truly focusing on the value drivers, and if you can, for example, if you're building a protocol on Solana, maybe there's something to be said about using Solana as fees, instead of like trying to create your own token, etc. Of course, certain teams may still feel strongly about their use cases, and they can definitely still do that. But if you can build a fully functional, business and fully, flourishing business out of, for example, like stablecoin and whatnot, why not use the existing rails? And you don't exactly have to, flood the ecosystem with more tokens that potentially cause more confusion and whatnot. How we'll continue to navigate the space in general is that we want to never ever have to fall into the sort of context of extracting from community members. Our goal is to to be focused on community members above all else. Community as a North Star for us at MonkeDAO. And for the next year ahead, we want to try to build out a couple more adjacent rails within the MonkeDAO ecosystem for us to really establish what it means to be a member of MonkeDAO, as we call ourselves the Premier Web3 Country Club. There's an incubator wing, maybe there's like other offerings adjacent, there's like venture investment opportunity, there's IRL events. To conquer both IRL and digital is not going to be an easy feat. And adjacent to that, we also want to build more collective recognizability for the SMB IP. We have done a lot in terms of community building. People feel proud to be part of this branding called MonkeDAO, especially if they are across Web3 community and whatnot. We want to, love to see that. So there's this collective pride that say, oh, you are also a fellow monkey, you are part of MonkeDAO. But we want now to also try to build that collective sense of pride when you know that you are a member of MonkeDAO and you are a fellow monkey, you own a certain Gen 2 and whatnot, and that whole SMB IP is something that is recognized by Web2 and mainstream audience as well. So how do we achieve that? It's going to be a big Pandora box. I don't think it's something that is going to be solved overnight. We're making some structural changes internally that will be announced really soon as well, that will show our focus in marketing and show our focus in moving towards this building the recognizability of the SMB IP brand moving forward.
Okay, makes sense. I think with this message of hope and changes, I think we can finish the episode for today. I don't know if you have anything else that you would want to add or talk about anything new in MonkeDAO that is just popping some alpha.
Yeah, no, I think today this is one of like the most exciting podcasts in a while. But you're right to point it out. Maybe I should start looking at doing more of this. But I really enjoy this platform. Thank you for having me. Most importantly, more than anything, I love it, especially for us to be able to support our fellow monkeys in anything and everything exciting that they are building, and especially being part of this podcast. Is one amazing way of such. There is clear line, and there's an amazing platform that we can share more about the excitement of MonkeDAO, and hopefully, become a positive catalyst as well to spread the word of what we do at MonkeDAO. But I think all in all, MonkeDAO is truly, operating with the vision to become the premier Web3 country club. The whole journey of getting into Web3 can be very daunting, but it doesn't have to be. If you are truly trying to find a place in Web3 and you haven't exactly found a home yet, we encourage you to check out MonkeDAO. We have a global network of members around the world today where we pride ourselves with close to 30 different local chapters. As long as you're going to a Web3 conference, be it Solana or not, but primarily, of course, Solana, there is almost like a very high likelihood in which you'll find a MonkeDAO native community or sub-community there. And we aim to be the de facto go-to community for all your Web3 adventure and your Web3 journey especially. Feel free to come and check it out and find out more about what MonkeDAO has to offer. And we look forward to welcoming you in MonkeDAO. Perfect.
Yeah, and let me congratulate you because you just got re-elected. I did mention that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's very well deserved in my opinion. You and MonkeDAO are very an inspiration for whatever we are trying to do in Mindful as well, in whatever I
Thank
do
you.
in the crypto world. So thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure, and I think everyone's gonna enjoy this episode.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having us. Most importantly, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you once again.
Thank you.